Let's start by just using the component Q-card, and then inside of there we'll say my content. Save it, and there we go. Nothing much to begin with. Really, it's just some round borders with a little bit of a shadow. However, we can start expanding on this by adding a Q-card-section, and then say my content in there. And this QCard section is a Quasar component that just adds a little bit of padding. Really nice to use inside of a card. So how about this? Let's do a card that's got a title section, and then underneath that will be the content. So for the title, we will say my content, and I'm going to wrap that inside of a div and use one of Quasar's really cool utility classes, which is text-h6. So that's going to make it a heading 6, and then text-gray-9. So let's save that, and there you have it. That's our heading. Now let's add another section in there, and we'll give it a class of text-subtitle2, another Quasar utility class. And then I'm going to put my name in there. There we go. It's kind of like saying, this is some content by ldiebold. Next, I'm going to add a separator and then another card section. I'll show you what I mean. So we can come in here and say Q-card-section, and then put some content in there. And with VS Code, you can say lorem, and then press tab, and that's going to give you a whole bunch of lorem ipsum, which is basically just random text. So there we go. Now I want to make this a little bit skinnier. So how about we come up here on the card and say style is equal to max width 250 pixels is probably a good number for that. Now notice that these two sections are a little bit too far apart. That's because the QCard section is adding padding at the top and the bottom. And so how about we come in here and say class is equal to Q-padding top-none. I think that looks really nice. Now let's get rid of that padding. Save it, so we're back to where we were before. And this time I'm going to add a Q-separator. And I want that separator to be inset. So let's save that. And that just separates our content really nicely. So that's another way that you can go about this. Or if you get rid of that inset, it's going to pull that separator all the way across the component. But I like the inset, so let's bring it back. It's also very likely that you'll want some actions for your card. For that, we can use a Q-card-actions. And inside of that, I'll just throw in a Q-button with a label equal to, maybe we can say podcast, for example. And there we go. And usually your buttons inside of a card are going to be flat. So let's add in there flat. Cool. I think that looks really good. And if you wanted another action button, you could copy paste that down and then give this another text. So maybe something like profile or link. I think that looks good. Often though, you might not want these buttons right next to each other, especially if you have a lot of them. So for that, we can come up here and simply say vertical on our actions, and then we're going to get vertical action buttons. So that's basically the crux of how you use cards. Let's dig a little bit deeper into the styling. So I'm going to remove the QCard actions, scroll up here, and then I'm going to add inside of here a different shadow. So let's say class is equal to shadow-1. Save it. Yeah, and that just makes the shadow a little bit less of a shadow because the default one gives you a shadow of about 2 or 3. And what I can do here is go all the way up to 10, for example, if I want a big shadow on my card. And then all the way down to, I think you might even be able to say none. Or maybe not. But if you hang on a second, I'll show you how we can actually get rid of the shadow. So let's close that out to go back to normal. Another thing we can add here is square. So before I save this, look at the edges and notice that they're curved a little bit. And if we save that, it just squares off our card. A lot of websites are going to have that styling where they don't want to have the curved edges. They want everything to be square. So that's pretty handy. We can also say here, flat. And if you make it flat, then you're going to lose all of the styling within the card's border. So that can be helpful if you want to take total control over the styling of your card's border. Another thing you can do is say, bordered. So on its own, it doesn't look like much, but there's actually a border on our card now. But this is particularly useful when you use it in combination with flat. So now we've got a flat card, so there's no shadow, and we've got that border around the edges. So you could actually use bordered, flat, and square to completely change what your card looks like. So that's pretty cool. Let's get rid of all that to bring it back to normal, because I do like the default styling. And there's two more things I want to show you. First of all, what if we want this part of the card, this content, to be on the left side, and then this content to be on the right side? Well, we can actually do that, but first, let's make the card a little bit wider so that it's going to fit nicely. 350 pixels should do. And now what we can do is wrap both of these QCard sections, okay? So notice that I'm grabbing both of the QCard sections here. Control-Shift-Enter to wrap it, and we're going to wrap it in another Q-Card- section. All right, so that's important. We're wrapping two QCard sections within their own QCard section. And now we can add in here horizontal, save it, and there we go. We get that horizontal effect. Looks a bit silly in this scenario, but you can imagine there could be some cases where that would be helpful for you. All right, let's get rid of that wrapped section and bring us back to normal. And let's take a look at using an image. So to use an image, you can put it inside of a QCard section. So Q-image, and let's set the source here equal to https://pixum.photos/300/200. This is a really cool tool. Basically, this pixum.photos website is automatically going to give us a photo with 300 pixels width and 200 height. So let's go ahead and save that. And now we get an image in there. The QImage component, by the way, is really cool, so check out that one. But I usually like to get rid of the QCard section for my images. Save that. Because now it takes up the entire card, and I think that just looks nicer. And this is a pattern that you'll often see, where there's padding for the content, but no padding for the image, so that the image is really striking and stands out. So that should be enough to get you started with the QCard component. Hope you enjoyed this one.